When Rush announced that Anika Nilles would be joining Geddy Lee and Lifeson on their return to the stage, fans celebrated, but many also had one big question. Could anyone really play Neil Peart's music? Neil wasn't just Rush's drummer. He was the architect behind some of the most intricate drum parts in rock history. Every fill, every accent, and every rhythmic twist became part of songs that millions of fans know by heart. So when rehearsals began, many expected Anika to copy every note exactly as Neil had played it. But something surprising happened. She didn't, and according to Geddy Lee and Lifeson, that's exactly why they wanted her. At first, this sounds almost impossible to believe. Why would a band whose fans can recognize a single missing drum hit actually encourage their new drummer to play differently? The answer reveals something much deeper about Rush and about the enormous respect everyone involved has for Neil Peart's legacy. Geddy has repeatedly explained that no one can replace Neil. The goal was never to find the next Neil Peart. Instead, Rush wanted a musician who could honor the original arrangements while still sounding like a real human being, not a machine trying to imitate another drummer. Lifeson echoed that philosophy. He explained that the songs need to stay true to the arrangements because that's what audiences expect. But once Anika feels comfortable with the music, she's free to bring her own spirit and personality to the performance instead of being trapped in imitation. But that single decision completely changed how fans began looking at her role. Instead of asking, can she be Neil? The better question became, what happens when one of today's most creative drummers performs Neil Peart's music with genuine respect without pretending to be Neil? And as rehearsals continued, the answer surprised even the people inside Rush. Long before Rush called her, Anika Nilles had already built a reputation as one of the most creative drummers of her generation. Her online performances amazed musicians around the world, not because she played fast for the sake of speed, but because of her unique sense of groove, precision, and musicality. Her videos showcased an original voice, and she later toured internationally, released her own music, and earned respect from drummers across many genres. That originality became one of the biggest reasons Rush was interested in her. Geddy Lee has explained that the band wasn't looking for a Neil clone. If someone tried to copy every movement, every expression, and every tiny detail of Neil's playing, it would likely feel artificial. Neil's style wasn't just a collection of drum patterns. It reflected decades of experience, curiosity, and personal expression. Anika understood that challenge from the very beginning. Rather than rewriting Rush's songs, she focused on learning the structures exactly as they were written. The iconic fills, signature transitions, and dramatic moments remained intact because they're essential to the identity of the music. But within those boundaries, she naturally played with her own touch, slightly different dynamics, a personal feel, and the musical instincts that have defined her career. That approach reflects something many professional musicians understand. Two world-class drummers can play the same notes and still sound completely different. It's the feel, it's the timing, it's the energy behind every stroke, and that's something no sheet of music can fully capture. Instead of competing with Neil Peart's legacy, Anika approached it with humility. She honored what made the songs legendary, while accepting that her own musical voice would inevitably come through. Ironically, that honesty may have been the greatest tribute she could offer. As more details from rehearsals began to emerge, fans realized this wasn't simply about replacing a drummer. It was about protecting the spirit of Rush, while allowing the music to stay alive. But there was one rehearsal moment that convinced everyone, including longtime skeptics, that the band's decision had been the right one. As rehearsals progressed, something remarkable began to happen. The conversation inside the room slowly shifted away from comparing Anika Nilles to Neil Peart and towards something much more important, how the music itself felt. Rush's songs have always demanded extraordinary precision. Many feature changing time signatures, complex arrangements, and carefully placed accents that leave very little room for error. Even experienced professional drummers have admitted that performing this catalog is one of the toughest challenges in rock. Anika approached that challenge with the preparation she's known for. Rather than trying to impress everyone with flashy changes, she concentrated on understanding the purpose behind every section of each song. She learned not just the drum parts, but how those parts interacted with Geddy Lee's bass lines, Lifeson's guitar textures, and the dynamics of the entire band. That level of preparation paid off. According to comments from Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson in interviews, the chemistry in rehearsals developed quickly because Anika wasn't trying to make the music about herself. She respected the arrangements while bringing the confidence and professionalism that come from years of performing at the highest level. Their focus remained on making the songs feel alive, not on recreating the past note for note. For Geddy and Alex, that distinction mattered enormously. Neil Peart was never just the drummer. They had spent more than 4 decades creating music together. His influence is woven into every Rush song, and no one expected that history to be duplicated. Instead, the goal was to celebrate it with honesty. Fans who had initially been skeptical began to notice the same thing. Clips and rehearsal footage sparked discussions online, with many praising Anika for striking a careful balance between faithfulness and individuality. Rather than hearing someone imitate Neil, they heard a gifted musician honoring his work while remaining true to her own identity. That growing acceptance wasn't accidental. It was exactly the philosophy Rush had hoped people would understand from the very beginning. But there was another reason Geddy and Alex were so comfortable letting Anika play as herself, and it says a great deal about how they believe Neil Peart would have viewed the situation. Although Neil Peart is no longer here to share his thoughts, the people who knew him best have often described him as a musician who never stopped learning. Throughout his career, Neil constantly challenged himself. He studied with renowned drum teacher Freddie Gruber, even after becoming one of rock's most celebrated drummers. He explored jazz, big band, world percussion, and countless other musical styles, not because he felt he had mastered everything, but because he believed there was always more to discover. That mindset offers an important clue. Neil wasn't known for encouraging musicians to become copies of one another. His own playing evolved dramatically from the 1970s through Rush's final tours. If you compare the band's early albums with later releases, you'll hear changes in his touch, phrasing, and musical approach. He embraced growth instead of standing still. That's one reason many fans believe Anika's approach fits Rush's philosophy so well. She isn't changing the songs beyond recognition. The famous fills are still there. The dramatic transitions remain. The intricate arrangements are respected. But when a groove breathes a little differently, or a fill carries her own touch, she's doing what every great musician eventually does, bringing authenticity instead of imitation. Geddy Lee has emphasized that the objective is to preserve the integrity of Rush's music while allowing the performance to feel natural. Alex Lifeson has expressed similar thoughts, explaining that once Anika is comfortable with the material, she can let her own personality shine through, rather than feeling trapped by perfection. That freedom has had an unexpected effect. Instead of distracting from Neil's legacy, it reminds audiences just how unique he truly was. Every time Anika plays with her own voice, listeners are reminded that Neil's voice was equally personal and impossible to duplicate. In many ways, that's become the greatest tribute of all. The music remains unmistakably Rush. The spirit of Neil Peart remains at the heart of every performance, and Anika Nilles reminds everyone that honoring a legend doesn't require pretending to be that legend. But perhaps the biggest surprise came not from the band or from the rehearsals. It came from the fans themselves. When Anika Nilles was first announced as the drummer for Rush's live return, social media lit up with excitement, but also plenty of skepticism. That reaction was understandable. Neil Peart wasn't simply a great drummer. To many fans, he was the sound of Rush. His technical brilliance, creativity, and decades-long partnership with Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson made him irreplaceable. Many wondered whether anyone could step behind that legendary kit without disappointing a passionate fan base. But as more rehearsal clips, interviews, and live performances emerged, the conversation began to shift. Instead of asking whether Anika sounded exactly like Neil, fans started talking about something else, the chemistry. They noticed how naturally she locked in with Geddy's bass lines, how confidently she navigated Rush's famously complex arrangements, and how much joy she brought to the stage. Rather than appearing overwhelmed by the responsibility, she played with focus, humility, and genuine appreciation for the music. Professional drummers also weighed in, pointing out that true musicianship isn't about becoming a carbon copy of someone else. Even if 2 drummers perform the same written part, their touch, phrasing, and dynamics will always be different. That's not a flaw. It's what makes live music exciting. Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson never promised fans an exact recreation of the past. From the beginning, they've been clear that Neil Peart cannot be replaced. Their goal has been to celebrate the music they created together while allowing it to continue with honesty and respect. That philosophy gradually resonated with many longtime listeners. Rather than viewing Anika as Neil's replacement, they began to see her as a talented musician entrusted with carrying forward songs that mean so much to generations of fans. It's a subtle but powerful difference. In the end, Anika didn't earn respect by trying to erase her own identity. She earned it by honoring Neil's legacy while remaining true to herself. And that may explain why so many Rush fans and Geddy and Alex themselves have embraced her performance. But there's one final lesson behind this entire story, and it's bigger than any single drummer. It's about what it truly means to preserve a musical legacy without letting it become frozen in time. In the end, the story was never really about finding someone to replace Neil Peart. It was about answering a much bigger question. How do you honor a legend whose talent can never be duplicated? Rush's answer was surprisingly simple. You don't search for another Neil. You search for someone who respects the music enough to play it with honesty. That's exactly what Anika Nilles has brought to the stage. She studied the songs, preserved the arrangements, and embraced the enormous responsibility of performing one of the most demanding catalogs in rock history. At the same time, she never tried to hide who she is as a musician, and that's precisely what Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson wanted. For more than 4 decades, Rush built its reputation on creativity, musicianship, and the courage to evolve. Neil Peart himself constantly challenged his own playing, refining his technique and exploring new musical ideas throughout his career. That spirit of growth became one of the band's defining qualities. In many ways, allowing Anika to bring her own musical personality keeps that spirit alive. The songs still sound like Rush. The unforgettable drum parts are still there. The emotion, precision, and power that fans love remain at the heart of every performance. But instead of becoming a museum piece, the music continues to breathe. That may be the greatest tribute Neil Peart could receive. Not a perfect imitation, but a sincere performance from musicians who understand why these songs matter in the first place. For longtime fans, every performance is a reminder of Neil's extraordinary legacy. For newer audiences, it's proof that great music can continue inspiring future generations while still respecting the people who created it. And perhaps that's the real reason Rush is comfortable letting Anika play Neil Peart's parts differently. Because they're not trying to recreate history, they're celebrating it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into the music, musicians, and unforgettable moments that continue to shape rock history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.